with the Artie Lange Show, and I'm real excited about our next guest. I'm a huge fan of the Ramones. I think anybody who, from my generation, would say that. They are a revolutionary band. Just when you thought, they came around at a time where you thought, you know, everything had been done in rock music, you know, guitar rock, whatever you want to call it, and then they started a whole new type of music. Punk music and a revolution, and we have one of the, you know, really the last link to the whole thing.
That's
really,
That's
the last link to Camelot. The great Marky Ramone, their drummer. Marky, what's up, man?
Well, it's good to be here, and you look good. Everybody's having a good time.
Yes.
Andrew was on yesterday.
Andrew's going to be the guy who's your lead singer, right, for this tour you got coming up. Where you're doing all Ramones tunes.
World tour. I got to keep the legacy alive because the songs are too good not to be played.
They are.
And there's a whole new generation.
Right.
And it's amazing the emails I get to continue this, to perpetuate the band sound, you know? I
mean, it was a brilliant time for music, man. That whole thing in the 70s, CBGBs. Again, you thought after the Beatles and the Stones, you know, you had Chuck Berry and Elvis, and then you had the Little Richard. Then that turned into the Stones, and you know, Dylan, the Beatles, and the Who, and Zeppelin and stuff. And then when you thought it couldn't become any more sort of original, you guys started punk rock, which was, you know, a whole new thing.
Well, disco was out.
Yeah.
Stadium rock, and we decided that, well, the punk scene at CBGB's, to keep the songs 2 minutes long.
Right.
Have some really memorable lyrics. And
in your face, deeply. I mean, quick songs that are like pop songs that can be played on the radio, but deep. You're talking about deep stuff there, you know.
They were very deep.
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah, crazy.
Knee deep.
Yeah, really.
You know?
That's a good way to put it, knee deep.
Oh, boy. But Andrew was great. He's, you know, I didn't want any Ramone clones in the group. I just wanted people to do it their own way, their own style, and he does. He's great. He's a great performer.
Now, describe, you know, your history with the Ramones. The Ramones came about, and you weren't the original drummer. Was Tommy Ramone the original drummer?
He was in the band for 3 years, and then after a while, you know, he had enough of touring, and he just wanted to produce, so they asked me to join the band.
And you were a really great live performer.
15 years I was with them.
Really kicked it in the ass a little bit there, and, you know, and... I saw you guys live a couple of times, and it's just what a great show.
Thanks. Joey was the perfect histrionic lead singer.
Yeah.
John was a great rhythm guitar player. He couldn't play lead, but he was a great rhythm guitar player, but that didn't matter. And Dee Dee was an exceptional writer and bass player.
You know, people don't realize Dee Dee wrote a lot of those songs.
He wrote the most songs of the band.
That's something I don't think people know.
Yeah,
I mean, talk about a brilliant guy who doesn't get the credit he should.
Definitely.
Really.
I mean, it's on record, but the thing is...
not talked about as much as the other
He really didn't look for the attention. He was just happy to be in a band like that and write those great songs that he did. He had a very, very childlike, vivid imagination.
He did, absolutely.
Which went into the songs. You know?
Well, you guys were rock stars. You know, you were sort of the anti-rock star, but you were rock stars. You were eccentric in a cool way, and really, you know, led to stuff like the Sex Pistols and that whole, you know,
they were
that was all
behind
after,
us.
right? That was all after you.
Yeah.
And you know, that rebellious, revolutionary like spirit that was so great about that time.
Well, we were an American band.
Yeah.
You know that.
A New York band, even more specifically.
New York. They're from Queens. I'm from Brooklyn, and you know, we gelled. It was a chemistry.
Now, how did you know these guys? He was in the band for 3 years. You were a musician they knew from hanging around the club, and what happened?
Yeah, they used to come see my band Dust in New York City.
Right.
We were before the punk scene, and they used to come see us along with members of the New York Dolls, members of Kiss. And then I started hanging out at CBGB's, and one thing led to another, and we became friends.
Now, Dust was your first band, and you call it the first real heavy metal band
in America. One of the top 3 heavy metal bands in America at the time.
Here's a CD. Now, what year is this picture taken? What are we looking at?
That was 71. It was about 17. Wow. Yeah.
Okay, 71.
High school in Erasmus in Brooklyn.
And this is a Brooklyn band, heavy metal 71. So really in the vein of Zeppelin around that time, type of thing.
That was written around 70, but you know, we had our own thing. I mean, of course, we loved those groups: the Who, the Kings, Zeppelin, Hendrix, Cream. But, you know, you throw that all together, you have an omelet, and it's dust when it falls down, you know?
Right. So you were doing that, sort of original in itself, and you got to be friendly. they admired your musicianship.
Right.
And they bring you into the band when Tommy doesn't want to do it anymore.
Tommy suggested it, and then Dee Dee approached me at the bar at CBGB's and said, "Hey, you want to be in the Ramones?" I said, "Yeah." And then it was 15 years and 1,700 shows.
So exactly like the legend would almost have it. At the bar at CBGB's,
That's it.
Dee Dee Ramone asked you to be the drummer.
It was that simple.
Now, describe going on the road with these guys and you know, the substance abuse and the craziness. I mean, there was a lot of that, right?
It was all there. I'm no angel either. I had a little drinking problem, which I stopped, and
Good for you.
You know, and it didn't interfere in my playing. It's just that it was annoying when you had the hangover, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously, Dee Dee had his problems, and you know, we weren't normal people. You know, we were not normal people. So maybe that's why we played so well together.
I think so.
But on the road, we had a great time. It's all going to be in my book.
Right.
And the great times hanging out with Phil Spector, Rock and Roll High School.
Now, Rock and Roll, you describe Phil Spector. Now, he's right now Phil Spector in jail for. I think he's innocent. I just watched the movie.
I always thought he was innocent.
I mean, I watched the movie that just came out on HBO. Al Pacino played him. Did an amazing job.
Yep.
Helen Mirren plays a lawyer defended him in the first trial, and it's just called Phil Spector. Check it out on demand on HBO. It's great.
Yeah, it is.
From what I take away from that is this guy paid for the fact that he's an eccentric nut, and he paid for his history with women.
Exactly.
And now you worked on albums he produced. Did he have guns in the studio? Is that all true?
Well, I was friends with Phil till he went away.
Right.
And he produced one of our albums, which was our largest selling album in the century.
Right.
Now, the problem was in court, obviously, the women came there, and
Ronnie Spector being one of them, who he treated pretty
all of them. The
crazy.
problem was he did point guns at people.
Right.
All right. The Ramones in the studio, he never pointed guns.
You never saw that.
Never pointed guns at us. It was only the Ramones allowed in the studio. No roadies, no road managers, just the engineer, Phil, and the band. So there were no guns pointed at us. He had them on him, and he had a ex-policeman.
Again, hit that again.
An ex-policeman,
right?
Who was his bodyguard.
So he was always packing in a sense.
Well, they had licenses to carry.
Right.
So he is a genius for what he did and what probably he would have done in the future. But egomaniacal. I mean,
you could tell that.
We can all get that way.
Right.
And he was the greatest producer ever in America.
When you produce albums like "Let It Be" and that stuff, you can get egomaniacal.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and but your opinion is a guy who probably got convicted because of his past.
I think he's
innocent.
Yeah, innocent, and I think it was an accident.
Okay.
I don't think he intended to kill her. I think it was an accident.
You think he was holding the gun when it went off, though? Do you think that would
I think they were playing around because you know she was in westerns and she knew how to twirl a gun and play with a gun. Put
and
it
was
back
into
in the
guns,
holster.
maybe sexually. A lot of girls are like that.
Well, you know, I mean, shit happens.
Yeah, but you can't curse. But that's all right. Crap happens.
Yeah, crap happens. You know, so. I agree with you. I think he's innocent.
Oh, I said that God, when I hear about a guy, especially a guy used to, I mean, that kind of lifestyle, you know, a talented guy. Okay, maybe he's an egomaniacal guy, but when I hear about a guy's freedom getting taken away forever, because it's a life sentence for him. He's 75 in 19 years. He's not coming out. I mean, you know, that's really brutal when you hear that, right?
Yeah, but you know, the jury came in,
right,
and that was it.
Now, being on the road, there's also, you know, stories about Johnny stole Joey Ramone's girl.
Oh, that was just a grain of sand on the Ramones beach.
I mean, you know,
I mean, Johnny had a lot of girlfriends. He had 2 wives. You know, so I mean, Joey always had girlfriends.
Right.
So, you know, it really...
He wasn't as heartbroken as he made out to be.
It was over-exaggerated.
Okay.
You know, Joey had a girlfriend the week after, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't it's no big deal, you know what I mean? So, because I get a lot of emails saying, who cares?
Exactly.
You know, so, yeah, and so what? You know, that happens.
From what I could see as a fan... Johnny seemed like maybe the hardest guy to get along with. Joey seemed like a good-hearted guy, but is that true? I mean, was there one guy in particular you didn't get along with, or did get along with, or like better than the others?
Well, it's like a family, like a business.
Right.
I mean, you know, you're in a van. We tour in a van for 15 years I was in a group.
People are going to get on each other's nerves.
Well, there you go. Okay. I mean, to break the levity, to have some levity, I would make a fart and make everybody laugh. But, just try to be funny, to make a belch or a hiccup.
Right.
But the thing was, Joey was a very quiet guy. John was, I guess a typical right-wing guy.
Well, that's the other thing people
know what
don't
I mean?
realize, that especially guys who look like you guys, rock and roll guys. Johnny Ramone was a heavy Bush-supporting, right-wing Bush Republican.
We're at the Hall of Fame. We get our statues. John thanks George Bush.
Right.
What the hell for? What did George Bush do for his career? And I told him, John, it was very inappropriate to do that.
That's him just trying to goad the rock and roll community, right?
I don't know. I think it was serious because I think he could have thanked other people that definitely helped his career.
Right, sure, yeah.
Joey was a sweetheart, very quiet, wonderful guy. Dee Dee was a whirlwind hurricane.
Yeah, he's a classic drug addict. I mean,
yeah, he was, and unfortunately, that's what he succumbed to when he put the needle in his arm. He was clean for 7 years.
Wow.
But anyway,
was he really? Dee Dee was clean for 7 years,
was,
and then oh man.
And then that happened.
Yeah.
So now we're here, and I'm keeping the legacy alive by touring the world and doing the songs properly, doing it right.
That's great. Now, my partner here, John, is a musician. He's a big fan of you guys.
Oh, thank you.
What's do you have anything you want to say?
I'm wondering. Drumming is so demanding physically,
it's like
especially in that band.
It's like being an athlete. Yeah,
definitely.
And I just wonder if it's different now than it was when when you broke into it. Physically, do you have to do things to keep your body in shape, your hands, your wrists, that sort of thing?
It's a good question. I try to play an hour and a half a day. I use large military sticks, military core that I used in high school in the marching band.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like lifting weights. Then you go back to your regular size stick, and it's a lot easier. Instead of taking an elevator, I'll take the stairs. The usual Nordic track and all that stuff when I'm able to, like in a hotel or something like that. But I never smoked cigarettes.
So that's you. I mean, you're right. When you go to a concert, man, you see what the drummer does. They're the hardest working guys up there.
You can't. You just can't. If you smoke cigarettes, you're going to screw yourself up if you're an athlete or a drummer or whatever, Now,
who came up, I always wonder, who came up with the whole, now maybe you weren't there at the very beginning, but you might know this, the whole look, the marketing of the Ramones is so brilliant.
Dee Dee.
Like, Dee Dee thought of, like, this look.
Yeah,
like,
Dee Dee Ramone. He was the guy who came up with the idea of the logo. He was the guy who came with the look. He was an Army brat. His family toured everywhere, and they were stationed in Germany.
Which is real ironic. I mean, this guy comes from an Army family,
And that's where all the pins came from, the U.S. pins, because we were very American. But he came up with the logo, and that's how you get the Ramones. But jeans, sneakers, that's what I wore in Brooklyn and Erasmus, where a lot of other musicians and actresses went. And it was a tough neighborhood at the time in Brooklyn. So leather jacket, jeans, the whole shtick,
Right. I mean, you guys were there's a whole story. I watched the Filth and the Fury, which is the documentary about the Sex Pistols, and you guys supposedly I don't know if you were involved with them at this point, but when you went over to England, you went to a Sex Pistols show, and the Sex Pistols had heard maybe that you guys didn't like them, and they were afraid you were going to beat them up.
No.
You were all in gang. You were like in a gang in Brooklyn that wanted to beat them up or something, and they were scared to death.
Yeah, we were in the dressing room, and they were there. We pissed in the beer, and they drank it.
There's some rock and roll for you.
There you go. I mean,
Yeah, right. So and they thought you guys, and Drew. I mean, so you guys. I mean, again, you guys come from a tough neighborhood. You weren't like some. You could handle yourselves in a fight, man.
Erasmus, Brooklyn, Flatbush Avenue. It was pretty wild back then,
Yeah.
But Ramones, we were a year ahead of the English punk scene, but they had great groups.
They did. I mean,
Clash, the Pistols,
Clash were
Buzzcocks.
Clash were a great band, but they didn't do like a lot of work. Unfortunately,
They fizzled out after about 5 years. Yeah.
What do you think about music nowadays, Marky? I mean, with the electronic scene and hip hop and everything. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there, but I mean, there's no. There's no scene out there that has the rebellious sort of FU thing that rock had and then punk rock had afterwards. There's no spirit like that anymore.
I don't
It's
know.
corporate, you know?
Maybe a lot of bands are afraid to express what they feel because there might be some feedback. Who knows?
Right.
But you know, technology changes. I feel people don't. We're still subjected to our siblings, school, jobs, what's going to happen in the future. So the lyrical content is basically the same. But I believe that this kind of music, heavy metal or punk, should be recorded on analog.
Yes.
Not on the Pro Tools stuff, because I feel that's it sounds sterile.
Right. It sounds better the
Very
old way.
sterile.
Yeah.
Well, obvious, you know, warmer, deeper, heavier.
It should be grittier. Right. Yeah.
Definitely. But I mean, you know, there's something for everybody. Everything is categorized. So there's always something new coming out. But, you know, to put things in a category, that's how it is. You know?
Now, do you think, are there any bands, like modern bands, that you like? That anybody out there you enjoy listening to?
Well, I don't know if you know or do know, I have a show on Sirius XM. It's called the Punk Rock Blitzkrieg. It's been on 8 years, and that's what I play. So I get to siphon through a lot of stuff. So there is a lot of new things I like.
There's new punk rock out there now?
There's a lot of good stuff.
Right.
Stuff that individual members of Rancid are doing.
Okay.
The Loved Ones, there's a band called The Gallows out of London. They're the new premier band out of England. They're great. So you got to look. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I like the Arctic Monkeys from England. They got some good stuff going on there. So you just have to look a little, you find.
The last band, and again, they're already 10 years old, the album that I'm talking about, that got me into them. The last new music that I really loved, when I bought it and I was obsessed, because I get obsessed with albums. I like, if I really like music, I listen to it. I'm like this with movies, documentaries. Over and over again, I'll watch it constantly. And the last one was the album Elephant by the White Stripes. I love that album. And but that's already 10 years old. Music is, do you find more than ever music?
Holds up, though.
It does,
Holds
absolutely.
Up.
And I think Jack White is brilliant. But more than ever, stuff gets obsolete in music in a millisecond, right? I mean, it's here and gone.
Yeah, that's why when you have a band like the Ramones, or obviously the Stones, the Beatles, the grunge sound, Pearl Jam, and stuff like that. It holds up, you know.
Definitely.
That's the true test of a great band, great individual, who will just be liked by every generation that comes along.
Right. The way my generation,
Great song.
I can remember. Yeah, exactly. By the Who, of course.
Song.
Yeah. So that's a perfect example of a song that I bought on vinyl, because I'm 45 years old. So all these different forms came around in my lifetime. So I bought stuff from the Ramones, the Who, Hendrix, Zeppelin, Springsteen, all these bands I love. I've bought their songs on vinyl, cassette,
A-track.
CD, right? A-track in the beginning, CD, and now I'm downloading.
There you go.
That's if you can have music that you've done all that with, then you know it's music that's great.
Definitely, they stick by it.
Right.
You know, through all the changes.
So you'll do whatever you got to do. Like, how do I get the Ramones?
You know,
now, in my car, what do I have to do? What's the technology?
Anything.
Yeah, right.